Jama kwaba from like Black Media. Abuja IGP Dampare meka se na oto my Ghana kunya so ayeyi no edi na yede new IGP Christian tete no hu edi aba no. Abuja afia ansana DNT a President John Dramani Mahama Dampare firi ho no no ensem no adadi na ensem no emfiri baabi a won se Ghana hase no offices bia wo ho no no se aban biba na oyi ne wo panipa na woda office na no firi ho no ma na wo de foforo no de ne beba no oba beye underground investigation na wo hwe adwuma ne no wo so no ye ne wantimi anye nyina na ba so wo to so wo hunu baabi obehya ase de afiri eno na new IGP asisi a wo so IGP Christian tete no hu eba ye no wode nani toto form ene owura ntokuro mu secret ne ho ne yema enam se ye na adwumenti no oba be hunu enema bi a osusu se IGP dada no wote so Dampare akufu eye a wo hunu se enye enu nti na nam so abusuan bo se wo be kai se yi IGP Dampare firi ho na police for no ye jubilation no mani aje no ne senti enina ye enema bi a na ye new IGP Christian tete no hu ehunu se na former IGP Dampare eye enu nti na nam so ma police for no mani aje wo ho na fiansa na ye sa niema no eni esu na ene eye mekase sumase niema na eye former IGP Dampare eye na afi na adadi a epia bonte a mepese wo ka me ho na ye kokohwe ye kotie enkomo no ede basisi ye abuja baabi a wo hwe me bia wo haw ne amane kodan na bia da eda wo su bia no bomode se onimi bedi nkomo ye de samna nwanwaso bi aba ye frɛ ne se eye sika kokko na gold samna wo haw bia da eda wo su bia wo hia sa samna we se bi afi wo ye bema wo hwe me wo bema sam wo fo wo bema ye ketwa rabaji bula matali eduro bi na wo bema enye kese watimi abo adwuma nso ache ewo empem ye de akwankyere bi aba abusua no ye hwehwe wo hyebrem a ye frɛ ne se mpelifo akwankyere ana se wo betima frɛ back to sender onipa bi ha onipa bi tata wato bet ewo ho se wo se ne tibi obeku bomode so be fa numbers ne go screen ase na woni mi akasa me hwehwe wo hyebrem wi a na bomode se me kyerɛ wo ne wo beye
IGP ede eye statement about Bontene. And IGP statement is simple. What did he say? IGP said, what's going on? Okay, thank you. All right. Now, team. Thank you, team. Mr. P, I got it. Now, this is why I want you to be very attentive. Some people are making a lot of noise about Adentina, John Mahama, Apam Dampare, Adentina, John Mahama administration, change Dampare, Adentina IGP, he was doing a marvelous job. Why did they change him? The issue here is Dampare position in Papadia. Dampare position in Mamedia. Dampare is an ordinary policeman who got the opportunity to serve as an IGP. It is Obiaba, no who say, I cannot work with you, I can work with another policeman like you are. What's the big deal here? Why should we make these things look like Dampare, the service away the BC and for church on Kwasia articles? Personally, I don't have an issue with Dampare, but Dampare is not the ultimate in Ghana policing. No. Now, the new IGP, the Assembly of Abontene, or say, police PROs to resume media interactions. Put him there, Emma Assembly, very serious. This should let you know. Said the Namu in public and police for jubilating. Dampare technically took the voice of the police and made it about himself. Do you know regional PROs who were paid as policemen to speak for various police stations around the nation? Dampare shut all of them down because Dampare wanted everything to be about him. It was only Dampare and a photographer who did a cheer or winning photographer of the year in Ghana. Me say Dampare photographer on pictures ben uta. My wife is a senior photo editor at the New York Times. All the pictures you see from White House, every picture from New York Times, my wife they decide who goes there to take a picture. When a photographer from New York Times, any president took in the Air Force One, my wife they decide who goes. My wife would say, Dampare photographer, no pictures ben watch our Ghana, wabe photographer of the year. You people can't you get it? Dampare turned Ghana Police Service, he turned it to himself. It was Dampare. Dampare did not give anybody any room. Dampare made the police service about him. And you people thought say Dampare was doing some extraordinary job. Maybe see that Dampare psychologically he's smart, and he read the Ghanaian for a long time. When he got the position, he basically became an IGP politician. And if you're not smart, you wouldn't know what Dampare was doing. It is seeing the policemen jubilating. It is not because they hate Dampare. It is because they realized that they were being led by a democratic dictator in the name of an IGP who basically portrayed to the world to say he is a leader for all. But deep down, there was no love down there, and the police were not at liberty to do their job. That is why you saw the jubilation. It is not because they have a personal issue with Dampare. It is because the servicemen realized that for a long time they were living under some kind of tyranny, but Ghanaians could not hear them. Ghana Police Service personnel were screaming, we did not hear, because Dampare had used Oninanim to cover up their pain. So every time the police are screaming, the police have a problem. We are looking at, hey, IGP Dampare, hey, we were not looking at the plight of the personnel. We were not looking at what Dampare took from the Ghana Police Service. Dampare made the police about himself. Dampare had an ambition. He had a psychological effect on Ghana Police and Ghana 4. And Ghanaians, at the end of the day, because we are dumb, we did not see it. How many of Ghana Police Service event and who say a new name had dominated the event? Never. It was about him. If it's not Dampare the show boy, the event should die. If it's not Dampare coming to do what? To see some people, the event should die. You did not even recognize anybody less than, apart from Dampare in the Ghana Police Service. You don't build a police like that. Because they are equally people are almost the same rank to say will be beating away IGP. So if you fail to let those people be recognized, you deliberately use the media to make it look like say anybody in the police who tries to speak up is an enemy to the police. You become a tyrant. And then Papa we buy and I'll say we need to give the voice back to the police. But one thing he said that I like, I'll say they should not move away from their professional job. If you have been given a job to speak for the police, make sure you are professional indeed enough. If you stick or you move away from the professionalism of the job you are doing as a PRO for the police, you have to be sanctioned. It is only in Ghana and Dampare became the mouthpiece of Ghana Police. How is that possible? We need to be able to hear our police PROs talk in our respective regions. Dampare by office and not shutting in down. Everything should go through Dampare. Dampare's photographer was considered important in Ghana Police than police officers in Penny 4. Don't you know? You have no idea. Maybe a Dampare photographer police senior rank police officer, you cannot sit there. That is how low Dampare ran our police service. So we were looking at the face. Somebody like Franklin Kujo Mono, they were not deep enough to understand what was happening. They were shallow. They were looking at the lifestyle. They were looking at the lifestyle IGP. They were looking at the paparazzi IGP. They were looking at the flamboyance. They were looking at the cheers Dampare was getting. They failed to look beneath Dampare, the people who made Dampare Dampare. Because if you don't get a police force that respects and believes in their leader, then that police force is weak. That leader is weak. Dampare was weak when it comes to policing. Dampare looked huge and he looked like a very flamboyant and very strong leader in the face of the media. But when you go down, Dampare was the most weakest IGP you've ever seen, because the people were not ready to die for Dampare. No police officer, in fact majority of the police officers or the personnel were not willing to die for their boss, because Dampare had no connection with those beneath him. And that jubilation, and what was happening, the jubilation wasn't because they were happy because a new man has come who at least see them as part of his office. That's all. The police needed that relationship. The police needed that coordination. The personnel down there, they needed it. Dampare did not give it to them. Dampare the IGP, everything was about him. And did you even see or hear anything about any police officer? No. Everything went through Dampare because he strategically placed himself in a position whereby it will be difficult for you to even see his flaws. But I can't show the weakest IGP we've had in our history in terms of his relation with the personnel is Dampare. Yes, but a chair when you're smart, a chair politics akata weni, a chair wajiri will say you change Dampare, you who some motorbikes nam council, you who the flamboyant young Dampare is not young. Look at Dampare deep, he's old. Dampare is not young. It is hard to create two with him. You try Dampare picture bar, near Photoshop it, then the name is smooth. Dampare is not a kid, he's old. Dampare on to me press up 10, he's old. But because he's skinny, my dream say a young police officer and you go for Penina Dampare. The idea here to make sure the police from bottom up is solid. No, he didn't have it. That was the quality he lacked. Leadership, coordination, understanding the people beneath him. He did not understand it. I don't hate Dampare. He's a police officer. Why should I hate him? But he lacked some things. That is why the president thought that he cannot work with him. There's nothing bad about that. He's still a police officer. He's still ready to serve Ghana. So why should he make it like a big deal? You change Dampare to be see that. And then you hear some old fools, Papa B, the former peace council, you should give us reasons why we are sacking Dampare. Dampare, he slept with your wife. That's why we sacked him. The former peace council, and the president should give us reason for sacking Dampare. Dampare slept with your wife. That's why Mahama sacked him. That is the reason.